Wes here. Got a couple videos for you today, but I want to keep this one brief because I don't like covering these kinds of things. But there was a shooting in Alexandria, Virginia near a baseball field where people were targeting congressmen, I guess playing some kind of baseball game. I don't know much about it, but I know there's a few people shot. I don't think anyone's died, but my thoughts do go out to them, and it's never a good thing when you have a shooting like this. But we need to keep something in perspective here, and the reason why I don't like doing these is we also have to remember that there are 20 to 30 people who die a year per day in Chicago, and there's many others who die in our other major cities, and those deaths don't get covered by the media. They're just silent, you know, and that's why I just I don't like covering these kinds of things because when I cover these kinds of things, I think of the people who aren't talked about. And the reality is, it would be impossible to talk about because you'd spend all day going through the lives, families affected, etc. So when you're tweeting about this and you're doing your virtue signaling, just remember there's a lot of people in this country who are not covered under this. Just to throw that out there. But the reason I'm doing this video isn't necessarily that. It's just I just want to talk to you guys briefly because I got a lot of liberal haters on this channel. I just want to talk about something I like to call dehumanization. When a murderer kills somebody, unless they're just some kind of psychotic serial killer who kills for the pleasure, which is almost nobody who murders, there's a process to murder. There's a process to killing. The first step of any murder is to dehumanize the potential murder victim or victims or group of people or whatever. You dehumanize, and then once you dehumanize sufficiently in your own mind, because this is ultimately inside of your own head, you have to get past your own human barriers because humans, they naturally want to do good. Even people who you think of as evil, every human on this planet has the natural capacity for good. Excuse me. And you have to peel back that onion to get to where you're going to execute your primal instincts. Because ultimately, that's what this comes down to. Once you dehumanize, then you hate, then comes the violence, and then once violence is justified, then murder is just not that big of a deal anymore once you have put violence as the center. And you look at the escalation, such as Antifa, who people who believe in collectivism, people who talk about the billionaire class, people who talk about, basically all these, a lot white Bernie supporters. And, surprise, surprise. The person who attacked was a Bernie supporter. And I don't do that to say all Bernie supporters are violent, all Bernie supporters are like that. Of course not. You know, almost no Bernie supporters are like that because, it's taking it to different levels. But here's my point. When you start talking about people as objects of evil, you say the evil billionaire class. These people are horrible. They're just greedy. They're hateful. They're racists. They're bigots. They don't care about the little guy. They want you to die. When you use that vitriol, this is the end result. You look at Black Panthers, KKK, you go to any riot in a city, 99% of them aren't violent people. Neo-Nazis, alt-right, 99% not violent. I'd say even these people who go to the Antifa protests, most of them are, toward the back. They'll protest, but you have the frontliners, um, and you have the attackers who are behind the frontliners who do it in anonymity. I'm sure, you know, maybe 20, 30% of people in Antifa would um, be violent. It's too high. But here's my point. It's like I said, you got to stop dehumanizing people. And yes, there's a time and place where you got to say this person is bigoted. You got to get him off his platform. There's a time and place for that. But my problem with Bernie supporters is they do it over mere policy differences. If you're not for universal health care, you're a piece of shit. It does not matter, for example, if you're a libertarian and you believe that government is less effective. It does not matter if you are a worker and you say you do not want to subsidize other people and you don't want them paying for you. You want everyone to pay for themselves. It does not matter what the policy justification is. It does not matter if you say, well, people should be more charitable. There's a lot of nuance that goes into having a political position. But when you're calling people just bigots over mere policy differences, voter ID, another one. Everybody gets called racist over voter ID. Birtherism. Calling somebody racist over just questioning where the former president was from. This is the kind of thing that leads to these shootings. The violence that you see with Antifa. All of this. And you can see it with the KKK too. You can see it, like I said, with all these groups. You dehumanize, you hate, and then you justify more and more violence and ultimately death. So, the short message is, and I want to keep this as focused as possible, so I'm just going to end it here, is stop hating over mere differences of opinion. This was Congressman that was shot. Look at the vitriol, the anger toward Congressmen. I don't agree with Republican congressmen either, but I'm not going to say they're bigots. I don't agree with their healthcare prescription. I don't agree with a lot of their rhetoric, their policies, pro-war, NSA, all that. I can go on and on with where I disagree with Republicans and Democrats. But I'm not calling any of them a bigots, and that is wrong. And when you guys subscribe to using that kind of language, or more importantly, it's not just the language. The language is going to be the language. It's more important what you think and what your attitude is. That's where it's got to end. Your attitudes have to change. And I'm not just talking about for election's sake, because you guys are going to lose more elections with that attitude. Because what's going to happen is you're going to close your minds off, you're going to stop talking to people, and what's going to happen, the people who are talking to people are going to get the votes. You're not going to get votes in an echo chamber. But more than that, you got to do it to prevent stuff like this. Because this is a result of an escalation. An escalation against Congress, against Republicans, against conservatism, against people who disagree with basic policy subscriptions. The attitude has to change. The attitude has to change, or you're going to be in a country pretty soon that you do not like, because with the combination of radical Islam invading the West, combined with extremism from stuff like this, you're going to get a lot more harsh police presence. You're going to have your freedoms cut into. You're going to give the government every excuse to do it. So just stop hating, change the attitude. When you disagree, make your argument based on policy, not ad hominem, not hateful war cries. War cries for elections, sure, but not war cries against personal character and integrity. It is wrong that it is done with such puny issues. And like I said, it's got to change, or you guys are going to get even less of what you want. Thanks for listening, guys. God bless.